Well, Cliff, I'd like to start off by saying about everybody's talking about a controversial call. The one thing I want to ask you was we've talked a lot of football. Would they have called that game, let's say in this game, in the first quarter, opposed to at that situation? Or would they make that call in the regular season game? They're always saying, why would you call it then? You can't pick and choose when they should throw the flag, even though it could alter the actual outcome, which really didn't, because it should never come down to a flag. Is my attitude. So I just think it reminds me of the Super Bowl. You being a Giants fan, with Tom Brady when he got the grounding call. You're like, I'm surprised they called in that situation. I'm like, why wouldn't they? He was obviously grounding. He was still in the pocket. He overthrew the guy by like 10 feet over his head, which is he's trying to get rid of the ball. I want to see what your perspective is on all this
Yeah,
and the game itself.
yeah. All right. So I mean, unfortunately, you opened with talking about the play that's the one that everybody remembers, and
Yeah.
fortunately, this game ends, and what are we talking about? We're talking about the call. And that's the biggest. That's the biggest, if you will, takeaway
Yeah, I
from
just
the
want to
game.
point something out what I didn't know. You said the defensive back that held him actually admitted it was a hold.
Yeah, Bradbury said it was a hold. He said, I don't know his quote verbatim, but he said, hey, it was a hold. I didn't think they would call it in that spot. So
See that's your point. A lot of people think, oh, don't call in that spot. So sometimes they try to sneak and get one by the refs. They do it all the time. Sometimes the refs call, sometimes they don't. So he basically admitted, I tried to
well,
cheat a little. I'm
okay,
just saying. So was it really that controversial?
here's let me just give you my thought process here, right? Here's the bottom line. The bottom line was it was Schuster, right? Yeah, Schuster. He takes an in route and then he cuts back towards the post and heading that way. Bradbury was one-on-one coverage and he had no help. So he knew once they were even, honestly, Bill, a good pass, it was a touchdown. The pass
Yeah.
turned out to be a really terrible pass. That's what nobody's talking about. Nobody's talking about
Well,
the ball.
he put too much on it, Mahomes.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
obviously. So if Bradbury doesn't touch Schuster, it's a non-catchable ball. The ball was
Yeah.
literally easily 8 yards overthrown. Okay. And the hold, which was he put his hand on his waist. Okay. So technically, yes, it's a hold, right? So he did hold him. Did he slow him down to the degree of, he was going to make up the distance of that 8 yard separation between where he was? Basically, I think he was literally crossing the goal line when the ball landed, and it landed 8 yards deep in the end zone. So he wouldn't have caught it either way. Um, that said, I mean, it's still a hold. So your original question was to me, what do I think? Was it a hold? What did they call it in that spot? Or if it was the first game of the year, do they call it? Yeah, I mean, you can't expect the refs. I mean, this situational football, you're not, as a ref, you're not really trying to determine in what spot do I call a foul or not call a foul. It's a foul or it's not a foul. Okay.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, you can't argue that it was a foul. Is it a egregious hold? No, it wasn't. It was a very subtle. He put his hand on his waist, and technically, it's a hold. All right? It is a hold. There's no doubt about it. And as you said, Bradbury, the defender, said, "I did hold him. I didn't think it would be called in that spot." So there really is no controversy. The only
Yeah.
thing that sucks about this is, had they not made that call, right? It was a 3rd and 8. It's 4th down. Obviously, the Chiefs kicked the field goal.
It would have been plenty of time for
It's a
Philadelphia to
minute
come
50,
back.
whatever is left. And unfortunately, we didn't get to see how the Eagles would have responded with a buck 50 or whatever it was left on the clock. They could either have tied
They
it.
they forced them two timeouts at that point, which means Kansas City could just start milking the clock.
Right. That Bill, yeah, that hold made it a 1st down with a buck
Yeah.
50. So they did what they had to do. They burned clock. They didn't score on purpose. Conchetto could have easily scored. He basically slid on the half-yard line, and
I thought he was actually going to go in like an idiot, and they were like, "No, he's got to go down," and he
they
did.
know that they know
He
that
was
situation.
one step away of falling in the end zone. I remember seeing that. Do you remember against the Giants, against the Patriots? He was
Yeah,
trying to go down the guy.
Ahmad Bradshaw. He was supposed
Yeah,
to.
and he slipped into the end
Yeah, he was
zone.
supposed to do the same thing, and you saw him fall and then stop and
Yeah,
fell forwards.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I mean, and that unfortunately,
the momentum sometimes gets you at that time.
Yeah. I
Fortunately, he
mean,
went
they won the
backwards.
game, so that didn't really affect the outcome, but you gave the Patriots an opportunity to
Yeah,
come back, and you shouldn't. That's really,
yeah.
there's no excuse for that. I mean, so KC played their cards right. They they gave Philly, I think it was 8 seconds. I think was what they had.
You mean Philly or New England?
No. I'm talking about
Oh,
this.
you're talking about the game
Yeah.
now.
So
Yeah, I believe there was 6 seconds.
no, I think it was more. I think it was 8 because
Was it 8?
I think it was 8. Doesn't
There's
matter.
something, you know what happened? I think they changed it at the end.
Whatever.
Like that.
The
Yeah.
bottom line is they didn't give him an opportunity to come back, right? That's really what it was. I mean, listen, could you score with 8 seconds? Absolutely. We've seen it before. They took the kickoff. The receiver that fielded the kickoff slid and basically, gave himself up. So they
Well, he did it on
had
purpose.
one more play. Yeah, so they
Yeah.
had one play, and I mean, obviously, we just the last play
No
was,
timeouts. It's
yeah,
impossible.
he heaved one and he threw it short of the defender's, game over. But the
Yeah.
bottom line is, it was you can't argue with the call. That's the bottom line. But it takes away. Here we are, how many minutes into this video, and we aren't even talking about the game, right? That's really the bottom
Oh, the game looked like it was great. What are you kidding me? 35. Who would ever think the game was that high scoring? Because Philadelphia's known for the defense, and it looked like the defense showed up in the first half. And all of a sudden, that fumble, and then Kansas City
line.
came
Yeah,
back, and
the second half. I mean, the Philly defense didn't really show up. I mean,
in the
they had,
first half, I think they were doing a decent job.
yeah,
I think it was like one touchdown they gave up in the first half or something like that. And the time of possession was like
defensive
10
score
minutes
and
apart.
right.
And that
So
was big.
it really was a competitive game. It was a good game. That's the shame of it is it was a good game. And now you have this play that everybody's
Exactly.
talking about, right? We're not talking about the game. Really, yesterday, the best player on the field was Jalen Hurts. I mean, Jalen
Yeah.
Hurts was the best player in the field. He was doing it all. I mean, he had 3 rushing touchdowns. He threw for over 300 yards. I mean, it wasn't the best game of any quarterback's career in the Super Bowl. It was really a good game, and he actually he was the driving force of the offense. AJ Brown had a decent game. Devontae Smith had a really good game. None of the backs got anything going. I'm surprised that Sanders wasn't a factor. They were going with Gainwell early, and Brandon Scott was in there a lot, which is surprising because you don't really see Brandon Scott, being and it wasn't like Brandon Scott was the lead back, but early in the game they were going with Scott a lot, and I was surprised. I was like, whoa. I don't know if Sanders was hurt.
That's what I'm wondering. Maybe he was
Yeah,
hobbled a little bit and they didn't want to say anything.
possible. I didn't hear anything on the injury report about Sanders,
Yeah.
but I was surprised that Philly really had their running game wasn't really that great. It really wasn't, and the Chiefs don't have a great run defense. So I thought that Philly would have had more of a running threat in that game, and maybe it was, I don't know. I don't know if it was the game plan. I don't know what it was, but Jalen Hurts, he established a connection with Devontae Smith early. AJ Brown didn't catch a ball until, I don't think it was until late in the first quarter or maybe early in the second quarter.
But
So
then he ended up with like overall like 8 catches or something
yeah,
like that.
he ended up having a decent game, but I would assume. But listen, when you're watching the game on TV, you really can't see the coverages or anything like that.
Yeah.
I would assume they were keen on AJ Brown.
Well,
And,
yeah.
so Hurts knew that. So he was going to Goddard and he was going to Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith had probably the best numbers of anybody. I think I haven't looked at the numbers, but I know he had a lot of catches. He probably had the most targets and he probably had the most catches of anybody in the game. Travis Kelce had he had a big touchdown. He had a couple plays, but he was, in the second half, he was relatively quiet. I don't remember anything that he did, any standout plays, which is surprising. You know who had a really big game, which I hate to say this because he's an ex-Giant, Tony, Kadarius Toney.
Why do I have a feel when you said that of being an ex-Giant? Didn't he have like a huge punt come,
Yeah, he almost scored on a punt return. It would have been believe it or not, it would have been the first time a punt return was taken for a touchdown. I never knew that. That would have been
Really?
the first
In the
time
Super
NFL.
Bowl?
Yeah, has not happened.
I
So
know
he
there was kickoff returns in Super Bowls,
yeah,
but I didn't know
that's what
that.
we talked about it last week. I was at that game.
Well, yeah.
So he returned once, I believe it was inside the 5 yard line.
Wow.
Yeah, so he did that and he scored a touchdown. Other than that, he didn't really have much going on.
Yeah.
That might
But that helped him though.
yeah, his touchdown may have been his only reception. Maybe he had one other one. I don't remember. But he was relatively quiet. He had two big plays, right? So he had a decent game.
That's why
Mahomes,
they call
Mahomes didn't
football
have a
the
great
ultimate
game. He
team
didn't really have a
sport.
great game numbers wise, but he's got the most important number, right? The W, right?
Yeah.
So it was, really, my if I really if you're going to ask me who shined in that game, I immediately think of Jalen Hurts. I think of Devontae Smith, and then there's Kelsey scored, but he didn't have a Travis Kelsey game, but obviously you don't I'm sure they were keen on him. As a matter of fact, Tony's touchdown. I think him and Kelsey lined up on the right side, and basically Tony was wide open because the corner they went to double Kelsey. You listen. At the end of the day, who are you keen on in that spot? You're inside the 10.
Exactly.
It's a,
It
I
was
think
no, it's smart. It was smart coaching to have it that way.
right
Because
because
they're gonna go after Kelsey.
Kelsey's your goal line threat, right? So
Yeah.
on him, and what happens once you do that? Somebody else is going to be open, right? So
Yeah.
that's really what happened. It wasn't like Tony made a spectacular move. He cut to it was a similar route to the Schuster penalty. He cut to the inside and went to the outside, right? So it was an easy score, wide open. He just basically walked in. So but again, who really dominated? Jalen Hurts had a really good game. Devontae Smith, as I said, had a really good game. And then you could pick out guys that had decent games. AJ Brown's numbers were pretty decent. I don't know what they were, but I know he had a decent amount of receptions after he finally broke the seal. Listen, all in all, it was a very competitive game. It looked like at halftime, the way the Eagles played in the first half, it looked like it was going to be much of the same. And
It looked like they were going to dominate the game.
KC came back and they scored. I think they scored on every possession in the second half. They did. Okay.
Yes.
So really kudos to their offense.
Well, my prediction was at the end of the bottom line, there was going to be too much Patrick Mahomes one way or another.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like. There's something, this guy just loves him. I don't know what it is, but he just becomes a different player. He starts out sputtering. He's done that. That's great. And all of a sudden he comes firing back in the second half on.
Well, I mean, like I said, his numbers weren't great, but he got the W. And, there was one key play. He had like a 30-yard run, right? So nobody saw that coming. Prior to the 30-yard run, in the first half, he twisted his knee again and he was hobbling around, to be honest with you, I know he's injured. So this comment that I'm going to make is going to sound a little bit controversial, but I think he basically baits these guys into thinking he's more hurt than he is.
I was going to say that could possibly be it.
Right.
Definitely you see these people coming out there. I always think my fake play would be like, well, he can't do this because his knee's hurting.
Right. And that's really, honestly, his 30-yard run. If you watch a 30-yard run,
I think it was a 20-yard run.
Whatever it was. It was.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said 30-yard run. I know it was a long run. It was it was a lot of yardage. And the play itself, it didn't look like he was injured at all. Okay. Yet a few plays, there were a few plays that preceded that where he's limping and he looks like he's about to be taken out of the game, and then he tears up that run, right? Like there was no problem, right? Now that could be adrenaline, that could be he's playing, this is not a negative on him. It's smart. He wants you to think he's more injured than he is, and guess what? You're not going to key on him because he is a threat. He is a threat out of the backfield, right? But if you think he's injured, you might not. You're going to get a little soft, right, in your defending of the run. And that's to his benefit. And then the one play where he needed it, he tears off that whatever it was, 20-yard run or whatever it was, and that was a key spot.
Plus, they never got any sacks on him either.
No sacks. You're right. Yeah.
It's weird because Philadelphia came in with 70 sacks for the season.
Right, and that's probably. I'm glad you brought that up because if you think about that, I think Philly had the best pass defense, right? I mean, in the league. I mean, they had the best. Okay, quarterback pressures. They were the best in quarterback
Oh
pressure.
no, yeah.
And you didn't see that yesterday. So
Yeah.
why? I mean, I don't know. The other thing that is amazing. Jalen Hurts. I mean, they put up a stat last night. His quarterback sneak percentage is off the charts. And if you watch the way that Philly offensive line controlled the line of scrimmage in those short yardage plays,
Well, they're known as the best one in football. Plus,
Bill,
Jalen Hurts also squats 600 pounds.
yeah, no, I know he's I know that, right?
Strong
But
kid.
but the offensive line, I mean, literally anytime they needed a yard or so,
Push.
you just see that
Yeah,
offensive line
push.
goes in one direction, forward.
Yeah.
There,
And
there,
that helps
there was
big
no
time.
match at the line of scrimmage as it related
Yeah.
to short yardage situations. Like it was a lock. If it was a 4th and 1, it was a lock that they were getting it, and everybody
Yeah.
knew it, right? So that was a factor. But I guess
All in all, it's still a good game.
it was a great game, and we'll close on it's just it's unfortunate that the biggest storyline that people are talking about is what we opened with, and we probably spent way too much time talking about, right? Which is the controversial
Yeah.
flag, which again, it's really not a controversy to me. It was a foul.
Yeah.
It just sucks that it was in that spot.
Exactly.
And we didn't get to see how the Eagles would have responded when they got the ball back with $1.50 or whatever was on the clock with 2 timeouts, because that's plenty of time, as you know. Your beloved Bills lost what 17 seconds left?
13
years ago? 13, even worse. 13. They lost with 13 seconds, right?
And they changed the rules, I think, because they want to see what Josh Allen could do with that situation. But I don't even want to think about that. I know you're trying to get up my skin by saying,
no, I'm just saying,
13 seconds.
A minute and 50, whatever seconds was left, or whatever it was plenty of time. With you said it was 2 timeouts. I don't remember that, but I know they had timeouts. They used them after the penalty, right? So they either had 2 or 3. So let's say it was 2. So 2 timeouts with $1.50. You have plenty of time
to do anything you want.
All you needed was a field goal to get to overtime.
You could hand the ball off. The guys don't have to go out of bounds. Anything.
Plenty of time, and guess what? You have 4 downs to move the ball because it's a must 4th and go situation, right? So you're playing with 4 downs, and all you needed was a field goal to get yourself into overtime, right?
Yeah.
And you could have scored the TD as well, but that's a shame that we didn't get to see that, because that really would have been. It could have been the best ending of all time, right? It could have been the best ending of all time. Yet what are we left with? We're left with this disappointing. Wow, there's a penalty, and now there's all this controversy and people saying, "Yeah, I can't call it in that spot." Yeah, these refs they robbed us. The refs didn't rob us of anything, right? They made a call that was unfortunately, it was in the last 2 minutes of the Super Bowl in a tied game, and you can't argue with the call. Is it a ticky-tack call? What's a ticky-tack call? No, it was a hold. The defender admitted it was a hold. It's a hold. Period.
Well, the comments are going to be lighting up on people saying, "Oh, they were robbed," because on Twitter I watch these shows, they're all ripping it.
Are you talking about the comments on your channel or in general?
Well, on my channel, I've been getting a lot of comments lately, especially on the Puppy Bowl. Did you watch the Puppy Bowl?
Lighten it up on the comments.
I've been getting some comments because I asked people if they watched the Puppy Bowl. I did.
Oh, really? The Puppy
Bowl?
Really? I didn't even know there was a Puppy Bowl. What's a Puppy Bowl?
What are you kidding me? You never heard of the Puppy Bowl? It started in 2003.
I know there's a dog show, the American.
No, there's a Puppy Bowl. You didn't know about the Puppy Bowl?
Nope, didn't know about it.
There's actually, because right when I stopped watching, it was towards the end of it. Sandy goes, "Oh, you missed it. They have a Josh Allen Hound. There's actually a dog called Josh Allen Hound, and he won the most popular." I'm like, "Really, Josh Allen? That's kind of funny." But yeah. So, anyways, I guess let's wrap this up. If you like this video, please share it. Please hit the subscribe button, and please hit the notification, and please hit the like button. Anything else to say, Cliff?
Yeah, just like I'm excited to see all these comments that you say we're going to get. I'm interested to see what all your
It's usually on my shorts, just to let you know.
What's that?
It's usually on my shorts.
Oh, it's on your shorts. Okay, well, this isn't a short, but so in other words, we're going to get no comments here.
You never know. All right, I guess we'll talk later then.
All right, talk to you.
Take it easy.